My name is Emily Bissett and I'm a third year student doing a Bachelor of Arts majoring in Screen and Media Studies.
My name's James Gray. I'm a fourth year engineering student.
As far as summarising kind of movement around campus, it was really very difficult in a wheelchair. Not only like the physical movement, like when you see a ramp around, you're like, oh, it's not very steep, but when you're in a wheelchair, it just seems so steep, going down and coming up. Also, there was a huge lack of signs around university. We saw like 2 disabled signs on ramps, one of which was like peeled off so much you could hardly read it, and there were a whole lot of ramps that did not have any signs on them. And then there were disabled signs on the most useless places, like automatic doors that were glass. You could clearly see through that, yes, you could go through there in a wheelchair. So that was kind of useless. It kind of just seemed like they were putting up signs because they had to and they didn't actually think about where they should put them. As far as like interacting with other people generally averted their eyes. Like once they took a good stare, they didn't want to make like eye contact, or they just quickly glanced and then looked away. And anybody who did look was kind of like smiling, but with a lot of pity. It felt quite belittling. And some people, most people kind of averted their gaze, but then if they visibly saw you struggling, they were happy to help out. But other than that, they kind of seemed to feel a bit awkward or uncomfortable. So it was a very, very educational experience about just how different and how difficult it is to get around campus and interact with people.
We both had very similar observations in that there was very little in the ways of signs where ramps were concerned. It was difficult to actually find out where you could go.
It's very hard to tell which way you can go, which ways you can keep going. Like if you're trying to get up to the library, we had to come all the way around all the shops and stuff because every pathway seemed to lead to stairs, but it was really hard to tell, and there's no signage, and I don't think there's any maps that like put it out, so you just have to do it by trial and error and memory.
So we initially went along the front of all the shops thinking we'd go up to the library, but there was actually no pathway up there, so we had to circle back to where we started and then choose a different way to get there. So that was a bit of an inconvenience, a workable around one, I suppose. Another thing that was quite apparent to me was the lack of signs where you could actually go to disabled bathrooms. I think we saw outside of the library complex where there's a disabled bathroom on every floor, and I only know that from my own knowledge. I didn't see particular signs for it. We only saw one set around the entire path we went, which was quite surprising for me. Of course, when I'm not in the wheelchair, I don't generally keep an eye out for those sorts of things, so it wasn't something I'd actually noticed until today. Another thing I found, going up and down the wheelchair ramps, they were often kind of I don't want to say not clean, but for lack of a better way of describing it, there was often wet leaves which would make the wheelchair wheels skid. So as I was going down them, I would often have to sort of re-steady myself and kind of stop multiple times just because the wheelchair had actually slipped. And it was a bit of a sort of shock that they would be kept in that sort of state. We went as a pair, so there was someone with us at all times, which was quite crucial in my opinion, because I wouldn't have been comfortable going up or down a couple of those ramps without knowing there was someone that could sort of steady me if I needed it. So yeah, it was quite eye-opening in that regard.